Our next first-round playoff game takes us to Park, Pennsylvania in Beaver Stadium, where the number 11 SMU Mustangs come into town to take on the number 6 Penn State Nittany Lions. Saturday afternoon kickoff at 12 p.m. on TNT/Max. Brad, interesting matchup, interesting broadcast. I don't know who's going to be on the call for this one. I really hope it's not Gary Danielson getting some contract work, but nonetheless, this is an intriguing matchup for all the viewers around the nation. SMU obviously went into the week before, playing Clemson in the ACC championship game. What an electric run SMU has made in their first year in the ACC. We all picked SMU. We really thought that they were going to take care of business in Charlotte, North Carolina. Clemson comes out and fights back, and Clemson comes away with the win. SMU slips down, but they still get a spot in the playoff, and now they get a chance to go on the road in a very hostile, whiteout environment at Penn State. The Nittany Lion fan base roaring, super pumped for their first playoff game ever. And, they've already been pumping Mo Bamba on the field. Field's at SMU. I'm not sure if you saw that in the news, Brad, but SMU is gearing up for this one. Not sure if you can fully prepare what it's going to be like on Saturday afternoon at Penn State and Beaver Stadium. But, Brad, I'll turn it over to you. Thoughts on this game and who comes out on top in Beaver Stadium?
Yeah, Nate, so a couple of things that, I just want to hit on before I get to my prediction. One, I'm glad the committee did the right thing. If you watch the second half of the SMU Clemson game, SMU absolutely deserved to be here. I know that there was a lot of talk Saturday evening as the conference championships ended, going into Sunday as we were, anticipating the playoff bracket getting revealed. Was it going to be SMU? Was Alabama going to sneak in? Was it going to be, South Carolina, Ole Miss? The committee did the right thing. And look, I get, those SEC teams I mentioned, I get, where they're coming from. But SMU, they proved it. I'll be honest, there was a point there in the first half where I thought Clemson, was going to win by, 4 touchdowns, but SMU rallied. This is a good football team. I've been bragging on Rhett Lashley all year. He's one of my favorite coaches. And Nate, I was just, watching something, and SMU's, it's not a big university, but they've got some serious money behind it. They've got the facilities in the era of NIL and transfer portal. I'm going to tell you guys, in my opinion, SMU is here to stay, and that makes me excited. I like their brand. I like I said, I like what Rhett Lashley's doing. SMU's here to stay. Number 2, was really impressed with Penn State a couple weeks ago. I thought what the Big Ten championship game showed is Oregon is vulnerable. They're not quite as good as I thought. Now, saying that, I still think they're the favorites, but Oregon's vulnerable. Penn State's a little bit better than I thought. I'll be honest, going into that game, I thought Oregon could blow them out, but Penn State showed a lot, and I'm going to get to more of that in a second. And then the third thing, and I'm not going to take very long because if you're a subscriber here on Break the Huddle, you know my thoughts on this. The NCAA is they suck. They're terrible. They're very, very disconnected. But we have the Penn State quarterback, their backup, Bo Pribula. I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but
all right,
he's been the backup all year. Nate, he's gotten some playing time. They have some packages for him to come in and be a runner. In fact, and excuse me, just getting to my notes here, I believe he is their 4th leading rusher. He is 242 yards on the year, 4 touchdowns. He's transferred. Why in the heck is the transfer portal open for playoff teams? And Nate, this is not the first instance we've seen teams that are in the playoff, the transfer portal's open to them. It's stupid. The NCAA has got to fix this mess, but ran over. That's all I'm going to hit on. So, focusing on this game, Nate, man, you said it. This is a very, very intriguing matchup. This one, to me, follows a very similar path to the Penn State-Oregon game a couple weeks ago. You have this very, very high-powered offense in SMU. Kevin Jennings, Brashard Smith, Rhett Lashley wants to run, probably 75 plays. And then Penn State, just a very, very good front seven. Of course, Abdul Carter, their very, very talented defensive end. He is the focal point in this physical running game. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Drew Allar is definitely a capable runner. Nate, this one is very, very intriguing to me. And really, my prediction, it comes down to three things. I think one is going to be the atmosphere. SMU, it is a 12 o'clock kickoff, but I don't know that SMU this year has gone into an atmosphere like it's going to be at Beaver Stadium. I know we're anticipating a whiteout. I think that's going to be really, really tremendous. It's going to be such a fun atmosphere. Number two is the conditions. Once again, it was cold in Charlotte a couple weeks ago, but SMU, I don't think they're going to be, I don't think they're going to be not prepared for the elements, but it's going to be different. It's going to be windy. It's going to be very, very cold. And I think that plays into the hands of Penn State. And number three is just the physicality. SMU went up against a really, really good front seven against Clemson a couple of weeks ago. And look, they handled their own, but you take into account Penn State's front seven, but Nate also getting into, I mentioned the very, very good 1-2 punch of Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and then, in my opinion, the best tight end in the country this year in Tyler Warren. And if you haven't watched Penn State, they do everything with this guy. You're going to see him in the backfield. You're going to see him in the slot. He's going to be an inline blocker. He may even take a couple of snaps as a quote-unquote wildcat quarterback. So all those things being said, Penn State to me wins this one. I think it's going to be close. SMU is going to make some plays, but I just think the physicality of Penn State, I think that environment and those conditions, I think it's a little too much for SMU to overcome, and the Nittany Lions move on, in my opinion.
Yeah, Brad. For me, this game is pretty simple. It comes down to your point, the elements. If you were playing this game in a dome, I think a neutral siting, I think you're looking at a much closer spread. The fact that it's in Beaver Stadium, in the elements of the cold, and granted, Penn State's never played a game this late in the season either at home. So, but they are used to it. They practice in it every day, right? And even though they may have an indoor facility, I can promise you that James Franklin will have this team ready. Because if he doesn't, we're going to talk about Ryan Day. I'm telling you right now, if James Franklin loses this game, his hot seat just got hotter. No doubt about it. And that's nothing against SMU, but this is what the fans have wanted. You got your shot. This is your shot, Penn State. And to your point, they've got some dynamic playmakers. You mentioned tight end Tyler Warren. You took the words right out of my mouth, Brad. I put in my notes, dynamic playmaker, instrumental, contributes significantly in both the receiving and blocking. This is your all-American guy. This is the guy that you want on the front of your line, pass blocking, run blocking, catching, going out pass or block and then release. So this game favors Penn State in every facet of the game. I do want to mention a couple of things, though. You got to look at Penn State's defense versus SMU's offense. To your point, and his first name's Rhett, correct, Coach Lashley?
Yeah, Rhett Lashley.
Rhett Lashley. He's going to want to run a lot of plays. His job is going to be able to keep that Penn State defense on the field as long as he can. Because this Penn State defense, they're physical. They're built like a Big Ten team, right? They're built like the Penn State that we thought they were going to be for years and years and years. And to your point, they competed against Oregon. They didn't win the game, but they proved that they can compete against some of the bigger dogs. And to my point earlier in the episode, anyone's beatable. It's anyone's game, right? And you just don't know. It's whoever shows up. Then you look at SMU's defense versus Penn State's offense. Penn State's offensive line is so much bigger than SMU's defensive line. And I think you're going to see that. Another thing, too, is I'm not sure if SMU has the depth that Penn State has. Even in the era of a portal, I can't see SMU having especially in the cold weather, that cold wind, that cold air gets in your chest. You start breathing heavy. You're gassed. Maybe Penn State runs up tempo with Drew Allar, mixes it up a little bit. They're going to keep SMU on their toes on the defensive side, no doubt about it. They've got dynamic playmakers at the running back. It seems like the running backs have been there for years. They've been there for 3 years, which in college football is an eternity now. And as far as your comment about the backup quarterback, I think the main reason why they have to transfer is because of the academic year.
Absolutely.
Got to get transferred in. But to your point, it's ridiculous that they're transferring while the playoff is going on. And I got to give a shout out and credit. I know he won't watch this, but maybe he will. Josh Pate. I mean, he called this 2 years ago. Everyone thought that this expanded playoff was going to fix everything, that everything was going to go out the window, and we were going to be in Rainbow Land. Well, Rainbow Land isn't real. And in the real world, guys are still going to transfer out. It just doesn't matter. We saw it even with Georgia. Georgia's had a couple guys transfer out that got significant playing time. And now they've got a first-round bye, and they've got guys leaving the program before they even play their first playoff game. So I don't think it's going to slow it down. And honestly, I think we're going to get to a point where people start opting out eventually of playoff games. Maybe you're 11, 12 seed. You got no shot against Ohio State. You got, and I get it, it's extra film. But if you already solidified your top 10, top 20 spot, look, you can say all you want about loyalty to your school, to your teammates. It's out the window. And we've seen it year in and year out over the last couple of years with transfer portal and NIL. It's out the window. So I would not be surprised in the next couple of years if we see a star quarterback who's supposed to be a top 5 pick that maybe plays for a lower seed and it's like, I don't want to get hurt. Why risk it? And I know it sounds surprising now, Brad, but I'm telling you, it could happen. It could very well happen. So for this game specifically, give me the Penn State Nittany Lions. I hope SMU keeps it close. I hope they put up a good fight. I love what Brett Lashley is doing. Me and you are such big fans of them. We're going to be talking about their program a lot in the offseason, so be sure to stay tuned for that. But for Saturday afternoon, give me the Nittany Lions. I think they handle their business, and they make it to the next round. And I forget who they're going to be matching.
This matchup will be the winner will play Boise State.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at a good one. Give me the Penn State Nittany Lions. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to come out on top in Beaver Stadium Saturday afternoon in the first round of the college football playoff.